Cooper Petagna, thank you so much. We're going to start with some SEC superlatives. Do I have to say this? Yeah, apparently I got to say this. Cooper, who's the baddest dude in the SEC this year?
Well, he might be a choir boy, but he's the scariest one I've ever seen. That's Keeley. I mean, he's a shade under 6'5". He's 240 pounds plus. He's got 33.5-inch arms. We always talk about the arm length. The arm length, that's in the 70 percentile. So right now, if you're one of the football gods, this is what you would create and sculpt as a prototypical edge rusher. He's going to Alabama, and this is a guy that kind of reminds me a little bit of Will Anderson. Played his ball at Tampa Bay, Berkeley Prep. And there were some questions about competition, and then we got to see him up close and personal in San Antonio at the All-American Bowl. This is a guy over the last 2 seasons. He's had 35.5 sacks. He was dominant in San Antonio, wire to wire. I love this kid. He's a clean prospect on and off the football field. I think he's next up at Alabama, and I think he's one of the safest picks and surest bets to be one of the best prospects at the next level.
All right, we know he is a freak athlete. Apparently, I haven't heard him sing, but apparently a pretty good singer as well. But Cooper, who is maybe an underrated prospect, a guy that we would call a diamond in the rough?
Well, Steve Wilfong's, he's been in his bag today. I sound pretty redundant, but Isaac Smith, a guy from my area and a guy that I should have paid more attention to in the process. Fortunately, I work with some guys that are smarter than me, like Andrew Ivins and Gabe Brooks, and we snuck this guy in on the back end of the top 247. And Steve mentioned it, a 3-phase player, 6 foot plus, 200 pounds plus, plays downhill. He had 10 interceptions this past season. He also had 1,900 plus total yards as well, 24 touchdowns. And in terms of the football intelligence and the instincts, I think he's one of the purest all-around best football players in the class. Maybe some of the things that are holding him back from climbing up the board are where we see his athletic upside and how it projects to Sundays. But I love Isaac Smith. I think this is going to be a guy that's going to be relied on very early for Zach Arnett in Starkville.
All right, speaking of, who's a guy that we're going to see early on play in the SEC? Who's your instant impact prospect?
Big shocker here, but Suntarine Perkins. I mean, I love this guy, 5-star, out of the state of Mississippi, Raleigh, small town, had one of the more insane stat lines you'll ever see, rushed for over 330 yards in his state championship game, had 4 touchdowns, 4 2-point conversions, an interception, 6 tackles, pretty electric. And then you turn on the film, you see the exact same thing, a 3-phase player. This is a guy that kind of reminds me a little bit of Harold Perkins, the true freshman All-American at LSU last year, in terms of the utility. A lot of people are going to talk about his ability between the tackles, his ability to line up in man-to-man coverage in the slot, but it's his ability off the edge that I think is going to translate day one. New defensive coordinator Pete Golding coming over from Alabama. This was a huge win for Lane Kiffin, and I think one that is going to pay them immediate dividends.
All right, Coop, who is your first QB up?
Well, looking at it again this morning, just to make sure I was buttoned up, there's 14 teams in the SEC. 5 of them have not signed a quarterback this year. So this was relatively easy. Nico Iamaleava. Hopefully I said that right, Emily. I've been working on that. But this is a guy, 75 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions in 3 seasons as a starter. A lot of people want to talk about the arm, and the arm itself is really intoxicating when you talk about the talent. But I always talk about his athletic ability, his ability to navigate the pocket, extend plays. Yes, he might be 6'5", but the way he moves in the pocket really reminds me of Bryce Young. So I love his ability in the pocket, outside of the pocket, his ability to be acrobatic as well. I love this guy. I think in 3 to 4 years, it's going to amount to a lot of wins in Rocky Top and a guy that could potentially take Tennessee to the next level in a college football playoff appearance.
All right, that is what this Knoxville native wants to hear. Thank you for that. All right, who is the fits the mold class? This is the class that best embodies what the team is trying to do on the field.
South Carolina. Listen, I know there are a lot of Gamecocks fans tuned in right now. They're waiting on 5-star athlete Nicholas Harbor. Is he going to go to Oregon? Is he going to go to South Carolina? You got a great class. Last year, you were 24. This year, you're 16. Upward trajectory for South Carolina. I love what they're doing on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Steve Wilfong hit on it earlier. Marquis Anderson, Ola Watosin Babalade, Trevin Ball, Jatavius Shivers, guys like that. Desmond Umeozulu, who Larry Johnson, Ohio State were after. Xavier McLeod, big guy in the middle, who South Carolina and Shane Beamer had to beat Georgia in Miami for. This, to me, you're looking for the equalizer. How does South Carolina take the next step to become a presence in the SEC atop of the conference? they have to neutralize the line of scrimmage. To me, this has been an ideal class for Shane Beamer and company.
All right, this sounds kind of surprising in the SEC. I feel like all of their classes are really solid, but let's finish up with a sleeper class in this conference.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Auburn here. In the last 2 years, even amongst the turmoil of the head coaching position, even with the hire of Hugh Freeze, I thought they finished really well. And a lot of credit to associate head coach Cadillac Williams, the former interim head coach after Brian Harsin departed. He did a really good job getting guys to campus, and I think Auburn was able to capitalize off of that as well. We talked about Keldrick Falk, formerly committed to Florida State. He had a really good week in San Antonio and at the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game. Deron Reed, who flipped from LSU before Hugh Freeze even got there. But guys like Tyler Scott as well, another guy that impressed at the All-American Bowl. J.C. Hart, who impressed in Mobile. They got some length, and you look at what Auburn has done in the transfer portal as well. If they can do this in a couple of weeks, imagine what they can do with a full year. I'm really excited about these guys, and I think sooner rather than later, they're going to be a force in the SEC West.